let's take a step back and understand what the fundamentals are looking like and what are the word from wise people coming in. Anand Shah, head PMS and AIF Investments, ICICI Prudential AMC sees real estate sector as the major growth driver for GDP. He's also bullish on power space as the need will only keep rising with growing economy.
There is one big play on the Indian economy will remain real estate. I think urbanization from rural to urban India and then providing housing is a big play. That will be the big driver of GDP, big driver of public capex in the sense there is a government capex, there is a private capex, and there is also the household capex, and a large part of household capex comes in housing. To us, we are long on the home builders. We've been overweight the entire chain of the power, because if the manufacturing has to pick up, if the economy has to move to $5 and $10 trillion, there's no denying that we'll need more power. And we have heard enough that there is going to be a need to even add a thermal power, which otherwise was supposed to be a sunset industry.
Well, that's all the time that we had on this segment. But when we come back, we'll take a look at how the derivatives roundup is shaping up, also discuss our big story of the day and tell you a little more about the Make in India push that we have an ET Now exclusive on. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's take a look at how the derivatives roundup is shaping up, right? So when you look at index futures, the trend that you're seeing for March expiry for Nifty is you're seeing mild long build up. And when you look at Bank Nifty, you're seeing it being largely flat in terms of the trend. And when you look at India VIX, that is perched up at that 13.4 level right now. And there on your screens, India VIX around that 13.4 level currently. And in terms of active call levels, when you look at March 21st expiry, what you're seeing in terms of calls is that you have call writing that was observed at 21,900 and at 22,000. And 22,000 was also proving to be a resistance level when you look at calls coming in. And when you switch focus to puts then, in terms of active puts for March 21st expiry, what you're looking at is put writing at 21,800 as well as 21,700, which is also proving to be a key support level as of now. So that is largely how the derivatives roundup is shaping up like.
Right, that's what the range looks like for 200 odd points. Relatively, we had a broader range today, and that's what is looking at what we see in the call writing and the put writing support levels also. Well, let's get you to the big story of the day. Eicher Motor. It was a big day for Eicher Motors, and on the back of a big broking report by UBS, Target has also been upgraded, and few rational from the report. Srishti is going to tell us. Srishti, take it over.
Well, yes, a double upgrade coming in on Eicher Motors by UBS. First of all, on the rating side, they have raised the rating, upgraded the rating from a neutral rating earlier and given it a buy rating now. And also on the target price, where they were targeting 4,300 earlier, now 5,000 is the target coming in from UBS on Eicher Motors. A lot of points highlighted in this report where they say that they expect Royal Enfield's upcoming 450cc platform to launch to address competition as well as growth concerns, because given the competition and the other OEMs entry and their aggressiveness in the premium bike segment, there were some concerns that maybe or not some Royal Enfield trusted customers can make a shift. But UBS doesn't see that happening actually. They do say that the market is missing the continued strength in Royal Enfield's addressable market. There's a lackluster response to the competition after the initial bump up, and Royal Enfield's strong customer connect is also there. They're also noticing the fact that going ahead, there will be a lot of replacement demand that could actually come and kick in, and this could lead to a multi-year upgrade cycle for a stock like Royal Enfield and Eicher Motors. They do forecast 10% of domestic volume CAGR growth between FY24 as well as 26 versus the industry growth of 6 to 7%. So they do believe that Eicher Motors is expected to outperform, and they also note that the valuation is really attractive, because earlier when Eicher Motors used to have that premium versus the rest of the OEMs. As of now, in 1 year forward valuation, if we see, then that is trading at a 20% discount to Bajaj Auto's valuation, and that's why they are saying that the risk reward is quite compelling at this point in time, and especially since Royal Enfield remains insulated from the electrification risk as well. So on the back of all these factors, UBS has gone ahead and upgraded Eicher Motors, and hence the move on the stock price. Back to you.
Well, MG Motor India has launched its Exceler EV model, and we also caught up with Sajjan Jindal at the event. But before we go to that, when you look at the key priorities, the goal is to create a Maruti movement, and that's the word coming in, and they're aiming to also launch one new model every 3 to 4 months. So that is the kind of pace that they're looking to have. And they also aim to launch a plug-in hybrid vehicle. And that's the word coming in from Sajjan Jindal. Let's take a look at a slice of the conversation that my colleague Aishwarya Patil had with him.
Opportunity that we are having with MG. JSW and MG, actually they bring a lot of synergies together. MG is already an established brand. It's a 100-year-old brand and already established in India. We are very passionate about cars, so we want to bring in the new energy vehicle. MG has a lot of technology already they have, and JSW can bring the manufacturing excellence in the country. So therefore, together we can really do an excellent job and can grow much faster than individually that we would have done.
Right. So we speak of JSW's legacy, it's been steel, and your passion has been to make cars, as you mentioned earlier. Apart from just the EVs being manufactured in the country, what are the other avenues that we're looking at through this partnership?
No, so EVs and all the new energy vehicles we will be manufacturing. And in this joint venture, we will be focusing on the passenger vehicle primarily.
So could there be a possibility of hydrogen vehicles as well?
Well, the technology is available, but it's still, I think, early days, and hydrogen vehicles will come up eventually, but whether it will come immediately, I'm not sure. And maybe I'm more excited about the battery technology, which is now solid-state batteries are coming in next couple of years. We will see solid-state battery. And the battery cars would probably do 1,000 kilometers in one single charge. So thereafter, you don't need any other technology really to do that. So, but you know, a lot of R&D, a lot of research work is going on in development of quality battery and also more efficient cars and stuff like that. So things are really evolving very, very fast. And before we will know, we will see that this becomes a mainstream opportunity.
All right, that's coming in from the JSW MG event. But then let's get you more stocks which were buzzing today. Gaurav has compiled a complete list of the stocks and the reason for the stocks which were buzzing in trade today. Gaurav, over to you.
Well, yes. First, let's talk about LT Foods because as per yesterday's announcement, Abacus Asset Managers had actually bought around 34 lakh shares at a price of 162 rupees. And at the same time, company is also eyeing to double its revenue in the next 3 to 4 years, and gross margin expansion is also expected from the management. And on back of this, we saw this stock was up almost 10% in today's trade. Let's also talk about Time Technoplast because company has received approval for manufacturing of high-pressure Type 4 composite cylinders for hydrogen. And this is actually a first company in India to get such kind of approval. And on back of this, we saw this stock was also up almost 7% in today's trade. Let's also talk about rides because company's CMD has said that they are declared as L1 bidder for the 900 crore project in Bangladesh. Now talking about the total export order in 3Q FY24, it stood at 288 crore rupees. And on back of this, if this order is been achieved by the company, this could be a very big news for rides. Let's also talk about Himadri Speciality because company is going to raise 343 crore rupees from promoters and other investors. And at the same time, company is also going to acquire 40% stake in Invati Creation, and this is going to be in line with the vision to create lithium-ion batteries, and that is why this stock is also going to be in focus. And lastly, let's also talk about IOCL, because Citi has now upgraded the rating to buy with a target price of 179 rupees. So they believe that the recent fall in the stock price is actually providing a very good point for entry for the investors, and on back of this they are being a little bullish on the stock, and that is why we should also keep an eye on these stocks and see how they perform in the trade in coming days.
Well, thanks Gaurav for that update. We definitely will be keeping an eye on all of those counters in tomorrow's trading session, but that's all the time that we had on this edition of Your Trades on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Priyanka Uppal, as well as the entire team that put this show together, thank you so much for tuning in.
Stay updated.
Good evening, you're watching the news at 4 and I'm Sumita Kari. Let's begin the show with a quick check at the markets before we go on to the day's top stories. As far as the markets are concerned, well, Nifty hit its 1 month low again today, but recovered in the second half of the day, ending flat. Eicher Motors and Maruti were the top gainers on back of news flow. We also saw some recovery in the broader indices as well. Small cap ending in the green today. Energy, in fact, was the top sectoral gainer, followed by realty and autos. Metals and pharma stocks, on the other hand, declined in trade today. Exactly why? Well, my colleague Ansh Pilwar is here to give us more details on today's trading highlights and the session.
Well, Nifty gave good recovery from day's low, but seems taking resistance at around 50 DMA, which is around 21,930 level. The top gainer for the index were Eicher Motors and Maruti, out of which Eicher Motor has given a breakout from its falling wedge chart pattern, whereas Maruti has given a breakout from its cup and handle chart pattern. If we talk about broader indices, the Nifty mid cap took support at 100 DMA, closing almost flat, whereas Nifty small cap snapped 2-session losing streak to close almost flat, led by Praj Industry and Angel One. Moving on to sectoral indices, here we are seeing Nifty Energy as the top sectoral gainer, which was up by around 1%, mainly led by Power Grid and Indian Oil. Whereas Nifty Realty was up by 0.6%, Nifty Auto was up by 0.3%, and Nifty FMCG snapped 2-session losing streak, mainly led by Colgate and Nestle. Talking about sectoral losers, here we see Nifty Metal as the top sectoral loser, which also declined for second consecutive session, mainly dragged by APL Apollo and Tata Steel. Whereas Nifty IT declined for fourth consecutive session and Nifty Pharma declined for second consecutive session, mainly dragged by Gland Pharma and About India.
And moving on to an exclusive conversation that I had earlier in the day with NSE MD Ashish Chauhan. He spoke to me about froth building up in the broader markets, lofty valuations, and also touched upon deliberations that are happening over extension of trading hours. So how soon will the extension come in? Well, listen in and find out.
The stock markets have a way to price a group of companies, and observers can have their own comments, and naturally the regulator has the maximum information and they would have their views, and we need to respect that. I think broadly speaking, Indian markets are in a good territory. So going forward, if the interest rates in America and all start coming down the way people think, probably you will see a sort of better days ahead.
So I want to also understand your view on the fact that are you seeing that when you say that the markets are doing fine, but are they factoring in election results as well? Because we've seen in the past, markets fluctuate quite a bit just ahead of elections. Or are the markets signaling some sort of policy stability, some sort of a continuation? What is your sense on that?
Broadly speaking, at any point in time, the markets cover lots of information. Literally, efficient market hypothesis says that all the information as of now available is captured in the prices. And broadly speaking, that includes the US election results, Indian election results, interest rates movements, inflation, wars, and everything else that is happening in the world. So broadly speaking, unless some new information comes, the expectations are reasonably built in for what I call a sustainable long-term growth in the Indian economy.
So this idea of one nation, one poll is of course brewing in. There's lots of debate also around it. But the idea of one nation, one exchange, is that feasible?
Broadly speaking, we have one nation, one order book. In some ways, automation has made it possible, not because of anything else. We used to have 23 exchanges before NSE came, and NSE created that one single order book, which is there where you and me, literally all Indians, 1.4 billion Indians can participate simultaneously. And that's where one order book has been created. Many countries in the world have a single exchange, like Japan, which used to have many exchanges, have now become one. Australia has become one. UK broadly has one exchange. And so, but then there are other examples like US, which has many more exchanges. And so the debate is still on, and India will be almost 17% of world population will find its own sort of solution to this.
So one final question before we let you go. I want to ask you about extension of market hours. I mean, this is something that has been the biggest ask as far as investors are concerned. How much has the needle moved on that, and by when can we see this close? By the second half of this year, is that likely?
I have my doubts because still the debate is on within broking community, what kind of cost they will incur, whether small brokers will be able to handle that or not. And then SEBI has to take a final call. Exchanges have been running 22-hour markets in GIFT City. Our technology is on. Similarly, even in the Indian markets, the commodities markets run pretty much from 9 in the morning till 12 in the night. So all banking systems, everything is actually working in India the way it should for longer trading hours. But still, some brokers have apprehensions, and idea is to take everyone along. So I don't know whenever it is allowed. I have my doubts, but who knows?
All right, the NSE MD and CEO stating that extension of market hours, that plan is unlikely to take shape, at least as far as this year is concerned. Deliberations are still happening. Moving on to the other big story, well, all eyes are now on the outcome of the two-day Federal Reserve meeting. Experts believe that the Jerome Powell-led central bank will maintain interest rates and will keep interest rates unchanged. And significant attention will be given to the dot plot, which will give an indication on how inflation has moved in the past few weeks. And moving on to some company news, HUL has said that it is evaluating various options for its ice cream business after its parent company Unilever announced plans to spin off the ice cream brand's business as a separate entity. HUL has said that now it will discuss options with the board and Unilever management as well in the coming few months. Vinny Motiwala joining in with the details. Vinny, what are you picking up?
So absolutely, what we saw in terms of a recent announcement that came in was that Unilever PLC is actually looking to strategically demerge its ice cream business. It's an intent, it's a strategic one. They want to make their simpler business as well. So yes, they want to focus on that, making the simpler business more focused on that higher performing categories and higher performing businesses as well. That is Unilever PLC, which is the global and the parent company of Hindustan Unilever. Now, does that mean even Hindustan Unilever will be following suit? No, that's not always the case. Unilever previously also separated out the tea business, but that didn't happen in Hindustan Unilever. Hindustan Unilever still is included in terms of the tea business as well. But let's talk about ice cream, right? That's the one we are talking about. And ice cream business, what HUL spokesperson is actually talking about is that the ice cream business, as they are evaluating, they will be evaluating various options in the light of this announcement that came in from Unilever PLC. They will discuss it with the HUL board as well as the Unilever management in the coming months. It's not just going to be immediately. In the coming months, they'll be discussing this, whether it actually makes sense. Let's not forget, for HUL, around only 3% of their revenues came in from ice cream business, and this is an FY23. So not a major chunk of that, but yes, if anything further happens, they said that they would communicate that. But as of now, the only thing that will be happening is HUL board and Unilever PLC in the coming months. Maybe we'll discuss various options and evaluating what works out well for HUL.
All right, so on that note, we're moving on to the other story. But meanwhile, HUL is maintaining status quo as far as, of course, spinning off the ice cream brand's business as a separate entity is concerned. And on to Zomato. Well, after facing severe backlash online from a section of people over the launch of their pure veg mode service, Zomato CEO Dipinder Goyal has now decided to roll back its offer of green dresses of delivery boys for veg food. What has caused this U-turn? Let's go across to Bhavya for all the details. Bhavya, this issue has generated quite a lot of buzz, quite a lot of criticism also coming in from social media. What's happening now? Why has Zomato decided to roll that back?
Right, so the food delivery platform Zomato rolled out a different pure veg fleet with a green uniform that will be delivering the veg-only food to its customers. But it faced a backlash on social media with a lot of criticism coming from its customers within the same day. And amidst that, in just a single day, they have rolled back that pure veg green fleet. So what Zomato's CEO Dipender Goyal said that they will continue to have a separate fleet for vegetarians, for the riders delivering just veg food, but they will not be wearing a separate green uniform which they introduced yesterday. All the riders will continue wearing the red colored uniform that they usually wear. So this backlash comes while the customers say out their concerns about these riders facing discrimination from separate RWAs or landlords, or the customers facing issue while ordering food on some special occasions which RWAs or the landlords might have an issue with. So amidst that, the Zomato CEO and founder went onto Twitter and said and updated on the pure veg fleet, saying that while we are going to continue to have a fleet for vegetarians, we have decided to remove the on-ground segregation of this fleet on the ground using the color green. All our riders, both our regular fleet and our fleet for the vegetarians, will wear the color red.
We're back with the latest edition of the Times Now Summit. Over the years, the Times Now Summit has been championing pertinent national agenda points where India's leadership, national thinkers and influencers come together to define the action plan and agenda for India's progress. This year's program is themed under India Stoppable, Unstoppable. This year, in fact, we will be focusing on charting India's remarkable journey and its increasing influence on the global stage. So do join us on the 27th of March and the 28th of March in New Delhi. And you can also watch the who's who of the political corridors share their views. Do stay with us and stay tuned with us for all the highlights and all the action as action begins right here, only on Times Now.
Consumer lens, we are building a ride-hailing service which will be using EVs, so it will be sustainable. We wanted to bring better consumer experience on the driver and the rider side. But at the same time, what we realized was for the fact that you wanted to run EVs, you cannot rely on for the world to set up the EV charging infra to fuel up your energy needs. Yeah. So what we did at BlueSmart was from the day one of us starting our services, we started setting up EV charging infra to service our own fleet. That's something that BlueSmart's been doing from first day one of its birth. We've done that over the last 5 years of our journey. 5,000 plus EV charging stations is what we have ended up installing to serve our cars and at the same time taking them public as well. So EV charging infrastructure is something that we have just not fundamentally shied away from, and we believe that's been a very integral way of how this electrification of mobility is something that BlueSmart has been able to crack.
Absolutely, but in terms of overall the journey, when you talk about how one has to go through the process, because how did you, one in terms of when you had to get in some investors on board, right? I know this is a very good cost, so no one would have said no in terms of that, but the costing wise for you to set up all this, it's not cheap, right? Because still we are newer in this space. So then how does that work for you as well? How did that go?
So isko na chicken and the egg problem bolte hain when it comes to charging and mobility. So because the chicken and the egg problem is typically classified as people are trying to figure out, will the chargers come first? Basically people come first, set up the chargers, and then it will become much easier for people to bring electric cars. But the charger guys are saying that let the cars come and only when there are enough cars I will build the chargers, right? अगर अभी दोनों साइड से आप वेट करते रहोगे, then ये कभी मामला आगे नहीं बढ़ेगा. So the idea is that somebody will have to break this and somebody will have to move forward on both fronts. And that's why at BlueSmart what we decided is that it makes perfect sense when you're accelerating a new industry to invest in both sides of the business, which is basically the ride hailing and the fleet side of the business as well as the charge side of the business. But it also makes great unit economics for us overall, because the cost of running these vehicles on electric fuel is much cheaper as well.
I believe you all already have 6,000 plus cars, right, that we are talking about. You all are planning to double it by when?
So 1 साल के अंदर हो जाएगा. So right now we operate around 5,000. Yeah. So it took us, I think, nearly, correct me Tushar, maybe around 2 years to add the first 1,000 cars?
Oh yeah, more than that actually.
That first 1,000 is the toughest?
Yeah.
So if you look at one of those our graphs of that journey, which is cars added every quarter, it just literally crawls, right?
Yeah.
And then comes the era which is 2022 and beyond, and over the last 2 years, an amazing amount of momentum has been built, and I would be not surprised if in less than a year or so we double up from where we are.
The need has become more. So I think overall the demand trend is also what you're increasing. But there's one thing that you all factor in also that you all have to do is you all only manage the driver service also, right? Like, so you all have to hire these drivers. How does that system also work? Like, is there a process that you all pick out? Because I don't know in terms of a comfort of a car if everyone knows how this process works. So how do you all hire drivers then?
Great question, right? So, see, when you're trying to build a premium service, it's also important that the person who's driving you is capable of delivering that premium service.
Yeah.
And when you come from a category where nobody has, ever focused on experience in the past, in 2019 it was a very new challenge.